Hi, welcome to Horror Addicts, here in the Horror Attic. I'm Danny Nightmare, and this is Laws. Oh, spoilers? There will be. But, as you can see, the Shredder mask, and kind of got a different theme going on here than the usual horror movie. And why, you ask? Well, normally we do review horror movies and horror things. This new DVD of the new Season 3 for Ninja Turtles is actually quite horrifying. We watched this and we were highly surprised. I mean, it might have something to do with Seth Green just jumping on. This is the first episodes that he appears on as Leonardo. He takes over the voice. And he loves to do random homages to this stuff, but I don't know if it's him or not. It could just be coincidence. But yeah, there's so many just things that they just throw out there that are all just horror-related influences. Like, the first episode, Within the Woods, that's just... It starts off, first of all, just like the original movie, The Ninja Turtles. You got them going to the farmhouse, and April's drawing pictures, and Donatello and Casey Jones are doing the insult jokes in alphabetical order, and all that stuff's happening just like it was. But then out of nowhere, it's a Friday the 13th movie. That's right. Freaking Jason Voorhees. And they come across this creep, as they call him, a mutated, like, monster made out of plants. Yeah, from Leonardo's throw-up. Yeah, he has a mutagen antidote and he kind of pukes and it turns the plants and stuff into some sort of thing that Michelangelo calls the creep, who's wearing a burlap mask with only an eye hole, just like Jason Voorhees. His overalls say Voorhees right on it. He comes at them with pitchforks and other type of Jason weapons. He gets his mask ripped off, and then he steals Casey Jones's hockey mask. Yeah, his hockey mask. So, straight up Friday the 13th. Crazy. Second episode, not as dark, a little more lighthearted, but still. Bigfoot, one of the most famous urban legend monsters, especially where we're from, here in the Pacific Northwest. And he's hunted by the Finger, which is this weird human played by Jesse Ventura, former mayor or governor of Minnesota and pro wrestler, who has an extra finger, and he talks like, I don't know, it's growing out of his hands, this tiny little finger. But he's very Norman Bates-like. From what I understand, he's supposed to be kind of like a Craven spoof, Craven the Hunter, but he's also a spoof of Norman Bates, it seems, because he talks to his dead mother, who he keeps the shrunken head, but he talks to her, it's kind of very Norman Bates-like. So that's that episode. Then the third episode, Buried Secrets, is basically scene for scene The Thing. Yeah, it's basically just The Thing. April's mom is found in a spaceship, but then it's not, well, I don't know if it's her mom or not, but it's not human, and it just shapeshifts and changes. It's basically The Thing, which, John Carpenter's Thing, anyways. Brilliant. Actually, this is actually pretty horrifying. Yeah, it was really gross, and Laws loved it. I loved it. And at the end of that, it shows, these mutated frogs, it just shows them, they're really creepy. It looks like the cover of the movie, The Frogs. And then that goes into the next episode, and you've heard of the howling, but this is the croaking. Now, this episode really isn't horror-related, other than those two things I just pointed out. John Heder plays his own voice as Napoleon Bonafrog, and he is Napoleon Dynamite. They had Napoleon Bonafrog way before Napoleon Dynamite. I mean, but they obviously wanted to go a different route than the old surfer frogs they had in the 80s cartoon and the other frogs they've had in any other version. And they have Napoleon Bonafrog. It's more of a hilarious episode. Him and Michelangelo become friends and just do some silly antics. However...
But they kind of like Frankenstein, the tree burning and stuff like that.
It does have a Frankenstein ending, you're right. Their tree burns down and it's very... The ending is a lot like how Frankenstein ended with the big windmill burning down. So, yeah, good one, Laws. Good for pointing that out. And then the mutagen from that, somehow the canister, flies out and hits a car. But, we're going to skip that and go into In Dreams. And in Dreams, this references two very big horror movies. First of all, you have the Dream Beavers. There's Dire Beaver and Dark Beaver, Dread Beaver, and Dave Beaver. He's just silly. But these four beavers invade the dreams of the four turtles and fight them in these horrifying nightmares battles. And each nightmare itself is almost a reference to Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street and the ways he's killed his victims. But not just Nightmare on Elm Street, there's also Evil Dead in this episode, because there's the guy, he's dressed just like Ash. He doesn't look like Ash, he's much older in a sense. Granted, Ash would be old now. But he's dressed just like him. He uses a giant chainsaw that he wields to protect a book that looks very much like the Necronomicon. It's not, it's a dream book and it has to do with the beavers, but it's still like obviously down your throat with Evil Dead as well. So that's that episode. That was one of my favorite episodes on this. But then we go from back to that car. There's this mutated car that's possessed and it's attacking people and they have to fight it. It's the car that's in charge. And that's obviously Christine, but, for the reference, but not only does it reference Stephen King's Christine with the evil car, the artwork and stuff and what happens to the drivers inside is just like Ratfink. Yeah, Ratfink. If you remember those old drawings. It happens to Donatello. He becomes this giant mutated Ratfink drawing. So that's what that also references for horrors. And then you have the last episode, Eyes of the Chimera, which everybody knows that Chimera, I think I'm saying that right, is an old Greek monster made of most different monsters. Like, it's different animals put together, which happens because this bird gets hit with the mutagen, and then it turns into other things, like with worms and a fish, and they all get combined. Chimera is usually like a lion with a goat and like a snake or a dragon or whatever, but it's a different type of animals. Then April can see through its eyes, and so she's technically blind herself, but she's seeing through it, which is also a very old Greek mythology type stuff as well. So in that sense, you got your classic horror as well. But yeah, Retreat, it's actually really freaky. We were surprised, but very happily surprised. So that's why we all think you should give this a shot, especially if you haven't. Not only does it reference horror movies, oh, that must be the pizza guy. Here you go, Laws. Why don't you go pay for that? Oh, and don't forget to tip. Not only does it reference horror movies, but it referenced the old Ninja Turtles as well.
Hey, little dude, here's your pizza. That'll be $15.50. Hey, what? What? Ah!
Everything's okay? Anyways, it references all the old Ninja Turtles that you grew up in love, so you should check this out. Oh, there's the pizza. Lols, you're killing me. How many times I tell you this isn't a pizza cutter? Look, you got marinara sauce all over it. Cowabunga!